Well, g'day folks, here we are once again for the Paddle Steamer Melbourne's annual survey on the boiler. So we'll give you a bit of a run through on what jobs we need to do. So it's basically our annual service of the actual boiler itself. So pretty much the first thing we're going to do is find the dirtiest, oldest pair of clothes you can find in the cupboard. The type of ones that you don't take home and show the missus. You rock up home with those, you're going to be in big trouble. So we find the biggest, dirtiest clothes we can find, and then we go into it. What we do is basically a dirty day followed by a wet day. Do it the other way around, turns into a wet day followed by a muddy day. So I'll just give you a bit of a quick run through here. So here we are. We've already started a few little jobs here. We're just about ready to start on the firebox, but the first job we need to do when it comes to cleaning these ones out is actually start with the smoke box end. So through here, we'll actually clean out that whole funnel there. So those that would have seen the slippage last year, we actually craned in a brand new funnel inside of that blue shroud in there. So we actually craned in a brand new funnel, so she's come up pretty Mickey Mouse. Then we open up the smoke box door and we start cleaning all this out. So we get in there with scrapers, we clean the tube ends and so forth. Get it in with a vacuum cleaner, clean all the tubes out again. Get rid of all the dust and dirt, ready for the wet side or the wet day. So you see the plug at the bottom there at the tube, so that needs to be removed. We'll start hosing it all out. So you want to get rid of all the dust and dirt as much as you can before you actually open up the boiler side. So today's job's pretty much just entail is working on the fire side, so the real dirty side. Now once you finish down the smoke box end, we actually come up through here. So what happens is we haven't gotten in here yet, but we need to get all these what they call fire bars out. Everything needs to be cleaned out there. Then you actually got the tube plate there. So this is a firebox end of the boiler. So this is the other end of the tubes that you saw before. So we'll actually get inside there and clean all these nuts up with a wire brush. Pull the fusible plug out of it. Just right up in there, top left there. Pull him out, get it all inspected, cleaned up. Camera's not quite focusing right, but that's all right. So actually get in there a bit later on. So underneath that firebox itself, we've actually got most of it all cleaned out. We'll get vacuumed out and hosed out. Anything that looks like it needs to be scraped, hit a bit harder, we will. But all that will get cleaned out shortly. Alrighto. A couple of hours later, we've got the fire bars out. The two sets, forward and back. Inside the firebox itself, we've got the tube ends have all been cleaned up. All those crown stay nuts are all wire brush and cleaned up. It's a little bit murky in there still. That's basically where we're at the moment. We'll then hit it with a hose, clean it all up, make it all Mickey Mouse for the inspector in a couple of days. Alright, so we've got the boiler all hosed out now. We've taken all these plugs, these manhole plugs out the side here. So this is what they actually look like themselves upon removal. They've got a little gasket seal around there that gets replaced every year. So that's the boiler side itself. They're yet to be cleaned up yet. The new seals put on. We've actually started to pull apart the gauge glasses. So this is what they look like assembled. Now they're actually being pulled apart. So we've got this glass here, bulletproof glass. So if this thing here actually explodes on us, this has got live boiler pressure. It won't shatter and go everywhere. So that's the old glass. And these are the rubber seals and washers and so forth. So these get replaced when we pull them apart. Just see how rubbery they are. They've gone hard and we're waiting to crack. These still are actually in pretty good condition, but they'll still get replaced anyway regardless. So that's basically where we're at the moment. So we'll get the other gauge glass out. We do have the safety valves apart at the moment. So this is the pressure relief valves in here for the boiler. Once it reaches the certified pressure given to us by the inspector, which is still 150 psi, these things are spring loaded. Got a brass on brass seat in there. So basically what we see here is our feed water systems in total. So we got the short stroke pump here, so that operates off the crankshaft there. So when the engine's running, we can either suck water in through here and return it through this blue pipe, or we can shut that valve, override the boiler pressure in there, and it'll actually pump into the boiler. So we top it up as we run. And then what we got over here is the injector. So steam injector sitting right in there. The injector itself, so we got raw water coming in from the river, and we got steam. As they combine, they head up through here. We've actually got a check valve in here, so it will actually, once we gain suction, we can actually suck this up. We'll push this up with the steam and the water, and it'll go into the boiler itself. So when we're not using the injector, that will slam shut, stopping steam coming back out of the boiler and back out this pipe here. What this is here is if all this is going wrong, stays open, and we've got boiler and water and steam rushing out of the boiler, we can actually get in here, turn this cock off here, and it'll actually isolate the boiler itself, so we can actually shut that down inside there. So all this needs to come apart to make sure it is all functional, gets cleaned up and lapped back in to be inspected in a couple of days. So this basically here is just a gland follower. It pushes down on this packing inside here. So I'll just get rid of that. So what this is, so you can see it through there, so that'll actually line up with the boiler itself. If we need to, we can close it. That packing will seal it shut there, so we can actually isolate the boiler so it doesn't actually escape at all. So at the moment we'll leave it in the open position. We'll put the follower back on. With all this old stuff, you see little markings like these little white dots, these little imprints and so forth. It's actually a direction of water flow. So they actually go in one way. So you can't put this in around the wrong way around, it simply won't fit. With all this old stuff, it deteriorates along the same time, at the same speed. So you need to make sure it goes back the exact same way you pulled it apart. So we've got it all back together now. The boiler inspector was here this morning, had a look through it all, gave us the tick. He's happy, really happy actually, with the inside of the boiler, how clean it is. So it means the chemical treatment has been standing up, which is good. So this afternoon we've been putting it back together. So it's got brand new gauge classes back in it. It's got the plugs back in it with new seals on it. We've currently got the hose running at the moment, filling it up. Very common question as to how much water it takes to actually fill the boiler up, and it's always been a bit of, well, not really sure. So we've actually done a bit of a test as to how much water is coming out the hose. So we actually should be able to give you a pretty accurate answer as to how much water the boiler actually holds. So visually not much would have changed from the last videos. So we got new rubbers around inside all these mud plugs. Water system got pulled apart, relapped in with cutting compounds. The isolation cocks got pulled apart, examined and put back in. There's no need to do much work on those this time around. As we move around to the front here, we've got all the fire bars back in place. Tube ends have all been cleaned up. They've all been wire brushed and so forth. So everything's back in, so hopefully by this afternoon we'll have a warming fire back in it. And in a couple of days time we'll actually bring the pressure up.